Our first guest tonight's a former BYU recruit and the pride of Springville High School right here in Utah County. Chose to play for Utah, where he remains the all-time passing leader in yards and touchdowns, and he kickstarted a 10-year career in the NFL. Now in his 8th season as Utah's radio analyst, and is preparing to call another BYU-Utah game this weekend. Our pleasure to welcome our friend Scott Mitchell to the Wise Guys.
Oh, boy.
Welcome.
Oh, boy.
It's good to have you here.
I can't believe that I'm here. Gosh, there's so much I want to talk about. I played 12 years in the NFL. I need those extra 2 years.
Listen,
Yeah.
My advice is go to Wikipedia and update that.
Are we personally responsible for our own Wikipedia page?
I don't know. But that's where I got
actually, there was something in my Wikipedia, and I was reading through it. I'm like, that's not right. And I said, but I don't know how to do this. So I was talking to the guys at BYU TV, and they go, yeah, we can fix that. I was like, well, fix it.
I need a fixer.
So
you need to spruce that one up.
I'll talk to our guys, see if they can help.
I noticed you're not refuting the all-time passing leader in touchdowns. They got that right.
Yes. Yeah. There's probably a lot more. Who knows? The records get better the older that I get. I brought something today.
What do you got?
So this is like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I actually brought a surprise. Okay. I actually watch you guys, by the way, and I love what you're doing here.
Thank you.
Because a lot of the people you have on the show, they were my heroes growing up. I was the biggest BYU fan in the world growing up. This is a game ball from the 1978 Houston Oilers Pittsburgh Steelers game.
Wow.
I got to go to the game. I was invited as Gifford Nielsen's guest.
Oh my goodness.
So he gave me this ball. It's faint. You can see it, but he actually autographed it.
So it says to Scott, Giff Nielsen, number 14. And I love this. This is a game ball.
Exactly. So see, this is a ball that Terry Bradshaw touched, Franco touched.
Goodness.
Nice. Jack
Pete
Lambert
Rozell's
probably
commissioner back in those days.
Yeah, Pete Rozelle.
Oh.
Anyways, it's flat, but this is where my dream started.
Yeah.
I was Gifford's guest, okay? And then I started to go to football camps with Gifford.
Right.
I was his roommate. And we went to Utah State and here I'm his roommate, and there were all these pros there. Jack Youngblood was there, Mark Wilson, all these guys. And, these guys are my heroes. So I loved Gifford growing up. He was my hero. And I swore I would never touch this football. I was going to go up on the mantle. And 2 days later, I'm kicking it in the yard.
Yeah, you have to.
That's why it's faded.
But this gave me this was my dream. This was what really accelerated, what really started me thinking about, I want to go and play professional football.
Yeah, so this game was in Three Rivers?
No, this was in the Astrodome.
Oh, in the Astrodome.
The eighth wonder of the world.
In the Astrodome, yeah.
Yes, it was incredible. They had discovered nacho cheese, right? The nachos that was invented in the Astrodome.
That's awesome.
And I was more excited about that than I was the game. The Oilers lost a close one, but Earl Campbell, you named a list of lists. So
thanks for bringing that.
Anyways, I thought you might get a kick out of that.
That's such a cool thing.
How does a kid from Utah County, who grew up a BYU fan, become a star at Utah and a broadcaster? What happened?
Well, it's a crazy story.
And we congratulate you because it's a great story.
Yeah, and it was the right thing for you.
Well, here's the thing. I grew up I worked out with the BYU baseball team when I was a freshman. Coach Pollins, who I absolutely love. I was a really good baseball player. And he actually gave me private lessons. I started in his backyard in Orem. And so he worked with me, almost through high school. Lavell is a relative. And these are people that I loved. I went to every game. Okay, every game. You have Lavell Edwards. I can point to in 1982 when they expanded the stadium. First game, Steve Young loses to Air Force. But I was at that game. I went to every game. 1984, I lived and died.
You're bringing back a bad memory for me.
Well, I'm sorry, but I was there,
right?
Yeah.
And I was a huge fan. Lavell is a relative. I have these ties to Gifford. There's no question in my mind that I'm not going to go anywhere but BYU. Not at all. I was so groomed and so ready.
Yeah.
Lavell came to my house December 1st, 1985. I'm in your house because you're our number one recruit. December 1st, the first day we can be in a player's house. I'm in heaven.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm Lavell's number one guy. And I wanted to be that guy. And I wanted, and who in their right mind doesn't go to BYU in the 80s and 70s, 80s, 90s as a quarterback?
Yeah.
And that was really what was going on in my mind. The problem was I was recruited by, the first letter I got was from UCLA. Colorado actually recruited me. I had some conversations with Nebraska. Stanford recruited me. Utah was probably my third or fourth choice at the beginning. Every time someone called me, every visit I went to these schools, I'm like, well, this is where I want to go,
Yeah.
And it was so much pressure. And it was relentless because, basically December, January, first 2 weeks of February, it's like every day. Yeah. Someone's calling my house, visiting me at school. I'm going on. And I got really confused. I was like, I always thought I was going to go to BYU. It wasn't even a question. I went to Stanford and I fell in love with it. Fell in love with the campus. They were playing baseball in the middle of January and it was like frozen, inversion in Utah.
Yeah.
And I really thought that's where I want to go to school, get an education, play 2 sports. This seemed like a good choice. They dropped me the Friday before the signing day.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I always thought I was going to go to BYU. Stanford came along. Now they're gone. What do I do?
Yeah.
And I went in my room Monday night and I started to pray.
Yeah.
And I'm praying in my room and the phone rings. Jim Fossil at the University of Utah. My mom yells down to my room. Coach Fossil's on the phone. I go, I don't want to talk to him. Trying to get an answer to my prayer.
So you're in your prayer and your mom says,
Jim
hey,
Fossil
Scott.
calls.
Right, yeah. And so, and for years, I never told anyone this story because it's very, very personal. So I answer the phone. I'm halfway from the basement upstairs on the only phone we have in our house with the long cord. And I'm not listening to a word he says. I couldn't tell you what the conversation was. Halfway through our phone call, I had this unbelievable just presence come over me, this peace. And it was so powerful. I was just like, this is where I need to go to school. And I knew that my prayer had been answered. And so I didn't want to go anywhere but BYU. I mean, to turn away from that had to be a really powerful thing. And it was.
Right.
It was a really powerful thing. And I went to the University of Utah and my experience was more personal. It really wasn't about football. We weren't very good. The only reason I threw for 1,000,000 yards is because I had to, right? I mean, we just weren't very good. So, but for me personally, I found my foundation. I found, my North Star, my compass, what really mattered to me in my life. And it's still that way today. So I'm grateful for it. Now, I missed out on the Heisman Trophy because Ty Detmer came, and I've talked to him about that, by the way.
By the way, last week he told us again, you owe him about 200 yards.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Well, I just said, could I borrow it for like a weekend, or just give me a picture or something?
Yeah.
And Ty said this to me. He said, had I gone to BYU, he goes, Ty said, I wouldn't have gone to BYU if you were there. So he goes, you were my missionary, so it's all good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It worked out for both of you.
It all worked out. I remember, and what people don't know is I've known Scott since he was in high school. Talked to your dad a bunch when you were going through all of that stuff. I love your family. Loved you since you were in high school. And Jim was talking about, Jim was this brilliant offensive mind.
Right.
And your dad was like, Scott just feels like this is where he should be. And Jim wants to build the offense around him. Yeah. Like he wants to do everything around Scott's skill set and do all that. And I was like, sounds like that's where he's supposed to go. It's hard to argue with.
It was actually hard because, I went in as a freshman and Coach Fossil took me aside. I was redshirting. I was having private, practice with Coach Fossil. He was doing all these quarterback drills with me. And they called me the golden child, because it was Coach Fossil's
Sure.
Guy. But I will tell you, in my life, my experience in football, I was so blessed to be in some amazing offenses. What we did at Utah was so much fun, and we threw the heck out of the ball. We were very forward thinking in what we did. I go to the Miami Dolphins, and I'm there for 4 years between Dan Marino and Don Shula,
right,
in an amazing offense. And then I start to play and have success. And then Detroit with Tom Moore, who's still coaching in the NFL today. I think he's about 80. He's between 86 and 89.
It's crazy.
He started with the Steelers with Terry Bradshaw. And he ran into my agent when he's still in Tampa. And it was when Tom Brady was playing. He goes, we're still running the same stuff with Tom Brady that we did with Scott in Detroit. So I was really blessed to be around some amazing offenses in my career, amazing people. But I will tell you that I love Lavell. And it's one of the things I really wished I would have been able to do is to play for him, and Coach Poland's the same. There's a lot of people at BYU then and now that I really think the world of, and so it's I noticed that you hid the Utah logo.
It's on the wall. It's on the wall.
It was in a better place, but man, the fans were getting on us.
No. This is what I love. Okay, I love the commitment. I really do. I love because the Utah people are the same way. Like, they're going to hide the BYU, and that's what's great about all this. Like, I'm not offended for it. I think it's amazing. I was with Kalani and Kyle at the beginning of the season. I did a charity event. I was emceeing it, and I remember saying, "Boy, this is going to be an amazing rivalry when these two teams, the end of the season, they're both ranked." And in my mind, I'm like, eventually BYU will get there. Right, because Utah's there right now, and boy, have things just flipped around in a New York minute.
By the way, folks on the stream really appreciated your story that you shared that led you to Utah, and we enjoyed it too. Former Utah quarterback Scott Mitchell and the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. So you played 12 seasons in the NFL. Over 15,000 yards. 8th season as a radio analyst, getting ready for this, and you just teed yourself up for what this rivalry means to you. What does it mean to you?
If you like what you're watching, you can help us out by subscribing and hitting that notification button.
For what this rivalry means to you. What does it mean to you?
Well, when I was a player, because people hated me, from BYU when I didn't go to BYU.
Sure. Still
do today, and it's fine. And I grew up here and all that stuff. But we were always picked on. It'd been 10 years, and I, at the time, the thing that was so annoying to me was that BYU kind of Utah's not our rival. We always beat them. It's not even, and so it really burns and chaps you, right? So then recently, when Utah's won 9 in a row, I feel like, okay, I got a little bit of revenge on that. But as a player, you have a terrible year, and we weren't great the year in '88 when we won. But it changes everything. I can't tell you how many people I have today that go, I remember 1988, and they know the score and they know everything. Now, I had a colonoscopy, and the doctor said, "Hey, I just want you to know." Before you go into this, that I was a BYU student in the game when you guys beat us, 57-28. I hope this turns out well for you.
Yeah.
And then I got
that's not what you want to hear.
No. I love the rivalry.
About that game, so 57-28, you mentioned the score at Rice Eccles, which had to be really, really cool. That's the most points ever scored by the Utes in this rivalry game, which is something special, right? You had 384 yards. You were throwing it all over the place. I was like, that night Scott was throwing BBs all over the yard. It was crazy. How much fun was that?
Well, here's what was the best part about it. We started this in the spring. We started talking about how we were going to beat BYU because BYU is really good. And a lot of times when you're a really good team, you get really predictable because you go, we're just better than you. We're going to line up. We're just going to let our people play, and we're going to be better. And this is how it was. First down, they were in cover 3. Second down, they were in cover 2. Third down, they were in quarters coverage. And it never changed. And I said, okay, we're going to run this play on first down. And if we get to second down, we're going to run this play. And if we get on to third down, we're going to run this play. And so we were like, what are the best plays we have? Like the knockout punch, because normally you don't know, right? Because but Utah or BYU was so predictable. And so Eddie Johnson up the sideline, we had a curl, and we had him go on in the flat up the sideline because the corner would jump the curl, and we hit that route. Hit Carl Harry on a post. He had to actually drop that in quarters coverage. So when you go into a game and as a quarterback, I know before I put my shoes on today what this game was going to be like. They were much better than us. They across the board, they were a better team. But we had so much confidence, and we just were tired of getting picked on and beat up, and we just said we've had enough.
Yeah, forced 8 turnovers.
Yeah. The defense was fun. You said something interesting. I've talked about this before, and I'm not sure people get it. It was the same when I played, when you played, and today. The really good teams don't do a lot. Like if you play Ohio State or you play Georgia today, they just line up and don't disguise stuff and just play straight up because they think that they can just beat you. Now, that won't be the case Saturday for either team, right? No, neither team feels like we're just so much better. We're just going to line up, or is it?
Well, there's so much like inner relationships with the coaches, right? Yeah. That they know each other. I mean, this defense that's at BYU started with Kyle and before him, and so they know each other so well. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Look, I don't know what Utah's anemic offensively, and the quarterback's position has just been horrendous. So I don't know what Utah is as a team offensively. It was sad that Cam Rising got injured because I really think this year would have been different, but it is what it is. And so I when you know other teams, I remember playing down here, I think 2018, and Jaron Hall was the quarterback, and it was like they really had Utah's number running the football and really ran against the Utah
in 21.
Was it 21?
Yeah,
last time.
And quarterback part of the run game because Jaron was such a big part of the run game.
So you kind of, it's a little bit easier when you know your opponent and you know them different in that. But really quick to your point about colleges that are just so good, they just line up and out-athlete you. I hated when I was in the NFL that we get these guys from like Florida State.
Yeah. Because
they were always better than everyone. They got to the pros, and it's like, everyone here is as good as you are.
They're all the same, right?
So you better be good at your craft. You better figure it out. You better learn good preparation habits, game habits. So it works to an extent, but once you get to a certain level, you got to know your stuff, and you have to be able to adapt.
Yeah, Steve Young came on. Remember, he talked. He said, "You got to own the data. You got to own it all. Yeah. If you're going to excel at the level that he did, and that the kids want to." You got to know everything about it, and you've got to study it, and you've got to practice it. And to be the very, very best, you can't just line up and play.
Steve Young's another one I got to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in 1994, they came to Detroit, and they said it was that game, because I think we were ahead by 14 at halftime, and we were beating the snot out of them. And he'd been benched the week before, and they were kind of figuring out, this isn't the Joe Montana, this isn't this isn't the 49ers that, we grew up with. And so they were trying to figure out who they were. We were ahead by 14, and Tom Moore, he called a play, and he goes, I don't like that, Tom. Let's call a different play. No, run it. So I run it, throw an interception. It's picked for a touchdown. And anyways, they come back, they beat us, and they go on to win a Super Bowl, and they all say it was that game in Detroit.
That was the turnaround when they figured out their identity.
I want a Super Bowl ring from Steve Young. And I want a Heisman Trophy from Ty Detmer.
Well, you got quite a list going.
I really do. And Christmas is coming, so please. Yeah.
Scott Mitchell, former Utah quarterback, Detroit Lions quarterback, Dolphins quarterback. There was one other team in there that escapes me for the second here.
The Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals.
Also, Utah broadcaster on the Wise Guys, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. A few more questions with you, and then we're going to hit you up with 5 quick ones. What do you expect Saturday? What kind of game do you think you'll see?
The thing that worries me about Utah, none of these players have played in this rivalry, so they don't really know what it really means. And until you've played in it, until it's been a part of things. Now, moving forward, it's going to be a big deal. Mm-hmm. Like, it's going to really matter. I'm worried about the last few years. And look, BYU has everything to play for. Everything. And I'm not sure Utah does. I'm not sure that it's about, hey, let's just get through this season. It really feels that way. I'm a little concerned that the players are going to go, yeah, we got to win this rivalry game. I don't know that it, for us, for other generations, like this is a weird game. And I know you talked about all the different, throw out numbers, throw everything out. It's a rivalry. Maybe that happens. I'm still a little skeptical if it does. Utah has been anemic offensively. A miracle is going to have to happen for that to change. I'm not sure that it does. And as long as BYU doesn't turn to football, I can't even believe these words are coming out of my mouth right now. But I'm being honest. I mean,
sure.
I see it how I see it. And I think it would be hard-pressed to expect BYU to lose.
On offense, is it all at the quarterback? I mean, we know that's the most important position in sports, period, right?
Yeah, we're not going to get an argument from that side of the table. I can tell you that much.
He just gives me those looks, Scott. I'm like, it's the most important position in any team sport, period. Yeah. And if you're not great at that spot, you're not great, right?
Well, it's so big in college football today because these quarterbacks are dual threat quarterbacks, and having an ability to run at the right time or make those big time throws. I mean, that's what Cam Rising did. I mean, he won as much with his legs as he did with his arms. And you can make up for a lot with a really good. It's like having a really big eraser on the end of your pencil while you're playing golf. That quarterback can just be that eraser to fix mistakes and be a game changer. And you can see it in college football. These big time programs are spending a lot of money to bring in a Dylan Gabriel to Oregon or some of these other places because they know that quarterback, man, can change everything.
We were watching Gabriel beat Michigan the other day. And then we were watching him play against BYU at Oklahoma last year. And then Zach Wilson played against him in the Boca Raton Bowl in 2020.
Like, how is he still playing college football?
It's a journeyman in college.
I mean, Cam Rising's been at Utah 7 years, almost a decade.
That's true.
And he has an eighth.
Potential that he could get an eighth.
Yeah, and he could be here or someplace else, which is crazy because there's no transfer rules anymore.
No.
So he could play an eighth season someplace else like Dylan Gabriel if he got healthy too, which is just crazy for me to think of.
He'd have to retire from the NFL by the time he got there.
Exactly. How good is Bernard? Because he seems like a good solid back that if he had a quarterback that could complement him, could be really good. Is he good enough? Is he as good as the backs Utah's had?
So Mackay, the thing that he's gotten a lot better, he's been much more physical. He's a little bit thicker than he was in the past. He runs a lot harder inside the tackles. That's been the biggest difference. But he's probably the most complete back that Utah's had because he's so good out of the backfield catching the ball, and he's a really great pass protector. He understands protections and he blocks well. As far as a pure runner, there have been guys that are probably a lot better, but he's been the one consistent guy all year long, and it's great because he's really gone through some things and come back from some injuries. So it's been fun to watch him play and play so well.
Do you expect Saturday's rivalry game to be the last one for Kyle Whittingham?
Yeah.
Do you?
I do. Yeah. When Utah played Oregon in the second, or it was the first Pac-12 championship game, it's like something's weird at Oregon. Like the vibe is off. It's just not. This isn't a Mario Cristobal team. They weren't in the game. They weren't there to play. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, he was now the head coach at Miami. And it's hard, I think, when like this is the end of it, because to coach and to play, it's such a grind every single week to get yourself ready, to take your body mentally and physically. And the mental part of it might be 10 times harder than the physical part of it. And to get yourself right for a game takes everything you have. And if you kind of know, I'm going to Hawaii in December and I'm going off in the sunset, even if it's a subconscious thing.
And they've already named my successor.
When that happened, I was a little bit nervous because when who do the players look to? It seemed like it could be a little bit of a conflict. Morgan and Kyle are great. They're very tight and they have a tremendous respect for each other. But it just feels like to me that this is the end.
Yeah, and I wouldn't argue with that. I was surprised that Kyle didn't go, but he thought he had Cam coming back and had a chance to go win another championship, and so he came back. I think if he looked in the rearview mirror and thought, if I don't have Cam, then maybe not, right? Maybe not.
Yeah,
maybe
there's a couple of things that have happened that I think have kept him around.
Yeah.
The two players that passed away kind of really reinvigorated him, and Cam, and the chance to go to the playoffs, definitely.
A couple of thoughts on the stream. Debate had said, "Now I can't hate Scott Mitchell anymore." That was an amazing story. Another one.
Which is great, right?
Scott, thanks for coming in and showing there's some class at the U. You know, you can expect that one, but it's nice.
Sure,
it's nice. Folks love getting to know you. Lay out your keys before Blaine hits you with 5 quick ones.
Hey, somebody wants you as a coach at BYU, by the way.
Yeah, that's been let me do that too.
There's like your technical knowledge, having you one-on-ones and film room with A-Rod would be great. So I agree.
If you're going to call a win on the radio for the Utes on Saturday, what 3 things need to happen?
Oh, what 3 things? Utah's got to win on first down. They have to stop BYU from running the football. Can't let the quarterback. And this is Monday, by the way, so it's a little early for that.
Yeah.
But you can't let the quarterback make big plays. I mean, that's been the one thing. And then it's just you got to play with some, like, you know, Kyle said the team hadn't played very physical, but it's kind of playing with some passion. You just haven't seen that from this. You know, what are the one thing that really stands out for me about BYU? They look like they're having fun.
Yeah.
You know, they show up every week and they play hard. And that's like 90% of the battle in football or in life or whatever. And so, you know, you have to act like you want to be there.
It's interesting you said that, because we were watching, BYU does this thing called the cut that their people put together. We're watching the pregame cut from the last 2 games, and they go in on the circles with the players and their position coaches before the game. And they cut in, and Kalani was to the whole group saying, now listen, go out there and play with intensity, but make sure you have fun out there. Then they go out. Justin N is in there, and he's like, and guys, don't forget to have fun. This is awesome. Have fun. They go to the safeties. Gavin's in there. Guys, remember to have fun. When you guys play and have fun, you play faster and you make more plays. Like, it was this theme. Like 4 different coaches and their individuals told these guys, the last thing they told them was, make sure you have fun because you play better when you're having fun.
When you have young, you know, 18 to 22, and at BYU they're probably 26 or 27. Anyways, and that's not a bad thing. It's not bad.
I love it when you know that's not true and yet you go there anyway.
Well, but those brains aren't fully developed, you know. So you got to remind these guys a lot of times. I mean, it's just, I think being a coach is a courageous thing to do, to put your fate, your family, and your fortunes on these young men.
Yeah, that's true. It's well said.
5 Questions is presented by Strategy Square, delivering connection, clarity, and confidence in business and marketing strategies. Owned and operated by a BYU alum who's helping wise guys conquer the world. You ready for 5?
Bring it on.
Your favorite sports movie?
Favorite sports movie? Hoosiers.
Hoosiers is a basketball one.
Yeah,
I like it.
Love Hoosiers. You know, I met Gene Hackman, by the way.
Oh, did you?
And he spoke to, I was with the Baltimore Ravens, and they were filming The Replacements. He came to practice, and I said, after he was done, I said, man, I thought you could give us like a Hoosiers, like, pep talk at halftime or something. And he kind of looked at me like he didn't even remember he made that movie, you know. It's just like, I love that movie.
Can I counter a name drop with you?
Why not?
So the 20th anniversary of Hoosiers in Vegas, they have a big party and screening, and people come. And so I hung out with Dennis Hopper.
Oh, that would be nice.
He was phenomenal.
And then we did a Q&A in front of the crowd.
He was phenomenal in
you
that.
got Hackman didn't come, but Hopper was there.
I'd rather have Dennis Hopper.
And you know whose favorite movies Hoosiers that's been on the show is Marie Osmond.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's her favorite movie is Hoosiers.
Yeah.
So.
Love Marie going. Yeah, I was in a movie once, by the way.
What movie were you in?
I was in Ace Ventura Pet
Oh,
Detective.
that's right.
Yeah.
I do
You
remember
have to
that.
pause it to see me in the movie, but I am in the movie.
Were you
That's
like an extra? You're walking past him, or did
No,
you have a line?
I was one of the offensive linemen that was lifting up Dan Marino in his commercial.
Because Dan was in
we
that
got
thing,
abducted, and they stole our uniforms, and so I walk out holding my head because some bad guy clubbed me over the head.
I knew you were in it because I remember that, but I got to go back and watch it again.
That's awesome.
Okay, number 2, your favorite singer or band?
Oh boy, so it's really Def Leppard for me.
You know what?
Yeah,
that's good stuff. That's one of my favorites.
I think Queen's pretty good, but yeah, Def
Hoosiers
Leppard.
and Def Leppard, you and I are like brothers.
I know.
Yeah, you're like AC/DC for him though.
And they're not bad. No.
So I'm with you on Def Leppard. Okay, your favorite breakfast cereal?
Oh, it's probably Frosted Mini Wheats.
All right.
You know what? We respect that as long as they're frosted.
We respect that.
No, it's got to be frosted.
Yeah, it's got to be frosted.
I got oatmeal, so frosted mini wheats was kind of that's my favorite.
So did you grow up on oatmeal?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, my mom was amazing. She made me breakfast
They ate
every
a lot
day.
of oatmeal out in Springville.
We always tease because
we have.
Danny came in here. Danny Ainge came in and he says,
I watched when he was like, "Look, I'm a Utah Jazz fan. I want Danny Ainge to step it up, right? I want a parade just like
did you hear his favorite
Smith. Come
cereal?
on."
He said shredded wheat. We go like frosted, right? And he goes, no, just a regular shredded wheat. And we're like, why don't you just go eat a bale of hay? Like, what you? I said, but you put sugar on it, right? He goes,
his wife makes him do that.
I know, Michelle makes him do it. It's not fair. So, okay, next one. Your favorite Gifford Nielsen moment?
Really?
Yeah.
This is a cool one.
All right.
So, like I said, we were roommates, right? And I went to football camps all the way through high school, and it was the coolest thing in the world. So I'm his roommate. We're in a dorm. I'm his dorm mate, and I go to bed, and he's out in this common area, and he's talking to all the, the players and whatever. So he comes to the room, and he thinks I'm asleep, which I kind of am. I got my eyes, and he does this, gets on his knees, and he starts to pray.
Oh, wow.
And after he's done, he reads his scriptures. And I was asleep. So he was doing this because that's what he did. And that always stuck with me. It like, I'm telling you, he still is my hero. And so that was, and then I think he won a Thanksgiving game. I think he came in but that was more, that's
really
great.
cool. He sat right there not that many weeks ago.
I know, I
did
watched
a phenomenal job.
Good dude.
Yeah, we love Giff.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, last one. Your favorite thing about the BYU-Utah rivalry?
That it's back, and it's back times 10. That like, just think of this. If Utah would have got their act together, and been undefeated, you're two top, probably 7 and 9 in the country, and it's the game. It's the game in college football.
Game day's here.
And here's the crazy part. If they're both undefeated, there's a real possibility that they could see each other again in the conference championship. And that's, to me, it's like sports has grown up in Utah. You got basketball, you got hockey, you're going to get baseball. You got all these things going on. And you have two programs that are in Power 4 football. And that's the potential of it. And so I hope that it just continues to grow, because that's when rivalries really matter, when these two teams are playing. They're playing for something big.
Yeah, I love it.
Give our best to Bill Riley and have a great call on Saturday.
Yeah. I'll give him a hug.
Yeah, and
You'll think that's awkward, but I'll do it anyway.
I saw Kalani on a quote last night, and he was talking about the rivalry. He goes, sometimes it's bitter with fans, but we have a lot of friends on both sides of this thing. He was talking about the coaches up there and how Kyle gave him an opportunity, and that Kyle got an opportunity, here, and that like he just talked about all of that, and said that there's really, and we go back to high school, when you were in high school, and and Bill's a very dear friend of mine who I did radio with for a lot of years, good friend of Dave's. There's a lot of good blood in this rivalry when we don't talk about the bitter fans, right?
Yeah, and the fan, I don't care that fans are bitter. Actually, I don't. It's just they're passionate about who they are, and we get kind of dumb when we do that sometimes. There's a lot of other things that are way more important than this. So I love it. It's good. It's fun to be a part of it. I'm just glad that when I was a starting quarterback at Utah, we beat BYU, and that's all I care about.
That's awesome.
It's just good.
Wait, what was the score again?
57-28.
Yes, it was.
They tore the goalposts down.
Yes, they did.
Chopped them up, gave one to everyone. That was
Ty pointed out the following year you got hurt during the week.
I didn't play.
And didn't play.
It would have been a different game.
Ty was a freshman that year, right?
The first year. He's a redshirt freshman.
When he came in the second half, but it was all over before
that.
then.
At least they didn't. I called a game at Wyoming when Wyoming beat BYU for the first time in a long time, and they tore the goalpost down. They passed it up the stadium. They threw it out of the back of the stadium. They marched it to a bar down the street where they hung it onto the ceiling over the bar, and it remains there today.
Nice. So you think, Lavell's a nice guy and all this stuff. He was not.
He's nice.
He's not sad to put 70 points on Utah. So
and Ty only played that one possession of the second half, and he goes, because of Mitchell, I had to sit out the rest of the game.
Yeah. Look, really quick. Lavell, I ran into him 2008. I moved back to Utah. We were at some event, and he came up to me and he says, "I've finally forgiven you for not coming to BYU." So all these years later.
Well,
Yeah,
everybody
that's
knows
awesome.
the story now, and as you can see from the live stream, everybody supports it.
Scott Mitchell,
Everybody
thanks for
supports
coming on the show. You're welcome here anytime.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's good to have you.
been
We'll
an honor.
expect you at least next November for sure.
I'm happy to do it whenever.
All right,
Yeah,
Scott
have a
Mitchell
great
and the
call
Wise
on
Guys.
Saturday, and give Bill a big hug for us. So,
Be on the Utah radio broadcast Saturday night for BYU and Utah. The great Scott Mitchell, the pride of Springville, been a friend of ours for a long, long time, and that was. Thank you for watching the Wise Guys.
if you like what you're watching, you can help us out by subscribing and hitting that notification button.